Hi Gemini, welcome to your November 2019 tarot reading. It's Rena here. This is a general tarot reading. I'm using the Wild Unknown deck. I just saw a card that's an example of well, I'll show you. Oh my gosh, so the first three cards I've got are all swords, and that's connected to Gemini. I mean, it's connected to all air signs. But, you know, when you kind of, I'm going to pick an additional card because of the nature of the Five of Cups. Well, if I was going to end on a card, it might as well have been swords, because that's what's so prominent in this reading. But what I'd like to say is that when you are learning the tarot, it makes sense to kind of start with the Rider-Waite deck, because that's going to be faithful to what the cards represent. And it's hard enough just to remember the meanings of the cards, even on a basic level, to have these inscrutable, you know, I don't know, interpretations. And so with this deck, there are some that I find like completely brilliant and original, you know, not trying to be like Rider-Waite. But then you get this card, and you're like, okay, now what exactly is this supposed to mean? I just think that's so fun. It makes me laugh, though, too. The Four of Swords. Because if I tell you that the Four of Swords is about retreat and rejuvenation, I mean, yes, it looks like the sun center of the little lamb's, like the kind of the pineal gland or something. But why, you know, what does the pineal gland of a lamb have to do with? Well, maybe there is some connection there, because that idea of recharging your batteries, you know, where is the true energy sourced from? Is it really sourced from something physical, or is it metaphysical? So I guess there might be some method to the artist's madness. But in any case, this is the Heart of the Matter card. Now, one thing I have to note, too, even with the Justice card, we're talking about a connection to Libra. And Libra is an air sign, too, and there's even a sword on the card. So, very strong emphasis on air energy. Air energy is intellectual, and it's detached. It's not interacting with life through the emotions, but through the mind, through how the mind processes something. And so it's emphasizing logic over emotion. But actually, when you get a bunch of swords in a reading, you could say that there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of strife, or there's something that is not quite as maybe you would like it. And so with the Four of Swords, it could be like you taking a breather, you know, within this general feeling that things are very stressful, to try to kind of make sure that you keep in the game, that you're not going to get too burnt out over whatever is happening. So I mean, even like if you asked for time off of work, or if you were, if you're married or with somebody, and you say, I'm going to separate from you so I can just clear my head. In the past position, yeah, that's what I think. Wait a minute, let me just say that with the Four of Swords, is that I even think of like clearing one's head of thoughts, like, you know, when you're supposed to meditate, that you're clearing from thoughts. In the past position, we have the Justice card. So perhaps there was some kind of decision that went down. Let me try to think. Your 8th house, which can be, you know, shared resources, money, which is a lot of time what lawsuits are about, if there was any kind of an inheritance issue, or which your 8th house would be Capricorn. So this might have been triggered over the summer, going into the fall. I mean, Northern Hemisphere, July, mid-July to September in particular. And that may have led to kind of a revelation that something was not quite right. I mean, in August, Jupiter went direct in your opposite house, the 7th house of committed partnership, Sagittarius. Now, Jupiter and Sag in retrograde might have been some kind of a slowdown of a lawsuit, because 7th house can be lawsuit. So if there's something that has been transpiring in a legal way, that may be like in play for you, that you are kind of dealing with the aftermath of that. Maybe just like you kept it together until the verdict and now you're kind of just chilling. The higher message is the 10 of Swords. So there could have been some feeling or a takeaway on your part that what happened was actually a betrayal of you in some way, or that you should take away. Yeah, because this is more of the spiritual message. So it may not be what you are thinking, but what you should be, how you should be viewing this. That it's more, that's evidence that you were being betrayed. And so whether this is a personal relationship, and not just a romantic relationship, but with brothers or sisters, or with the law, the legal system, the justice system in some way, even in the workplace where they have arbitration or whatever, mediation, you may have felt that you were the one. I should say that with the spiritual message, it's not so much that you feel this way, but you need to look at it from that angle, because that might be more how it went down. You might be kind of spinning it in a positive way because it feels really bad to think of it in terms of what might really be happening. That just is too much to think about. What crosses you is the Father of Cups. If this is a person that you have been getting away from, then this person, it's funny that it's kind of like a black swan or something. It's like the dark, person. Maybe they seem on the surface, or you thought when you first met them that they were really kind, and you found out that they were, it's kind of like that narcissist, which is just, I keep saying this, I'm not just saying this because it's my, a new word I've learned. It's because I've really learned how much narcissism is kind of the key to a lot of these relationships that are not only like toxic, but that are hard to understand because the other person's behavior is just so strange and contradictory, and so this person might have acted like your savior. With the Father of Cups, now this deck, they don't say like kings, queens, they say, like family members. And so that kind of is good in the sense that you can get that connection to your literal parent, if that applies, and if that has been a source of problem. If you have a father who kind of didn't treat you properly, and you're starting to realize that that has rubbed off on all of your relationships. If you're a woman and you're interested in men with the opposite sex, for instance, or if you're a man interested in the same sex, you could say that too, right? But seriously, I I would just say somebody in a position of power, with the Father, with the King, this is the King of Cups, but in the reversed position, this could be somebody who had this aura of kind of infallibility, that what they thought and what they did was just beyond reproach, and really it was just all an act, that you trusted in this person and they betrayed you in some way. And so going back to that Ten of Swords, the betrayal might have started a long time ago, and you're seeing it repeating itself. I mean, it might be a unique situation right now, but it's still, they have that saying, same shit, different day. It's really how life keeps showing us, or the universe keeps showing us these patterns that kind of keep us in this particular holding pattern, a pattern that keeps us in a holding pattern. And really, I wrote this the other day, the way out is in. The way out of your situation is to tune into your situation. So if you are on spiritual retreat, or you're doing it, do it yourself retreat, somehow like getting away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Even if you are working 9 to 5, but you turn off your phone as soon as you get home and you're just like kind of in hermit mode, this could be kind of what's going on for you at this time in November. And you may not even, like how sometimes people will distance themselves from others, and it's like sometimes we need to do that. Sometimes it might be excessive and it might be concerning, but sometimes it's exactly what we need to do. We need to tune out other people's opinions on our life and just kind of tune into what we want and what our truth is. I think that, that's very important. So that Father of Cups can be somebody who is a narcissist. Now, they might be an outright one, although with the Father of Cups, it's very possible that they could be a covert narcissist, which is basically somebody that is still trying to take in other people's energy. Some people would see it as having to always be the center of attention, but really being the center of attention is wanting to feed off of constant energy being given to them by being the center of attention for their problems. A malignant narcissist is somebody who will try to act invincible, like they're so powerful, they never make mistakes, they're always shaming people for not being perfect, but they are not going to present themselves in a vulnerable state. That would be the last thing that they do. A covert narcissist doesn't have any problem doing that, as long as they can get people to feel sorry for them, to kind of like suck at other people's time and energy by getting people to cater to them and just to focus on them. And they're always the victim. It's never their fault. It's always somebody else's fault. So you'll hear them blame others, but they might have blamed you, and you might have taken that in a guilty, having a guilty conscience, and that sucked you into their, vortex, if you will. And then it was off to the races, because you might have identified with that kind of dynamic where you are, guilty of doing something bad against somebody, so you're trying to make it up to them. And it's all a sham, because these people do not want to change. And by the way, this could even involve addiction, okay? This could involve somebody who has a problem with alcohol. We have cups here, but you can substitute it for something else. Again, what I just described is kind of what you see with people who are addicts. It's never their fault. Now, when they, make a point of getting sober, then they can begin to examine themselves. Really, why they're doing that is it's so painful for them to look at themselves. That's why they, deflect or project. And so you have to, the way that you get out of these situations is to realize that it's not your fault and you can't change. It's not your fault that they drink. It's not your fault that they are unhappy. Even if you're abusive to them, which hopefully you're not, they can always leave. So if they're accusing you of not treating them properly, then they could always leave. They're acting like you're just not doing enough, but they're not going anywhere. So that's when I'm saying you might be kind of battling. If you're separating from this type of person, hopefully my description of them made it so that you can understand what you're up against. This could be like a boss who has a problem with addiction and it's affecting the way that they're treating you. Or they're trying to guilt you too. They're trying to manipulate you to try to get what they want. What's coming in is represented by the Strength card, and I do feel that you will summon the strength. Or this is what it suggests. This can be advice too. It does take a lot of strength to hear somebody accuse you of something that you know intellectually that you didn't do, but you're hooked into that feeling, and to still move on with your life and not to allow them to manipulate you to the point where you stay somewhere where you know it's not healthy, where you know that there's just something wrong with that situation and that you need to be out of there. But you're kind of feeling guilty. It's kind of making you feel stuck. The outcome, I did pick an additional card, is the Five of Cups. This is the card of dejection, a sense of mourning the loss of something. A lot of people don't get this. You can be the one to instigate leaving a relationship or quitting a job and be in total mourning. Why do people think that it's only the person who gets left that is in mourning? No, because you may have liked your job, but it's the person you're working for or the people that you're, surrounded by. The work itself may be great, or you care for somebody, but they don't care for you in the way that you need them to, but they will go out and they will make the case that they're the victim, that you're the one that's the terrible person. So the point being that sometimes you just can't win with certain people because that's the game, is that they're never going to accept you. If they accept you, that means that you don't have to do anything to prove your love to them. And they want you to always be in that mode of trying to crave, favor from them, because that gives them a sense of power. If you're in this position of, like, please approve of me, or please don't think I'm a bad person. And this applies to any type of relationship. It could be with a sibling, it could be with a boss. They keep you on your toes that way. You have to come to any relationship or situation in life, Gemini, where you are independent of the opinions of other people. And I remember reading that several times and being empowered by that as a possibility of flipping the script and changing how I perceived these kinds of issues that relate to how other people withhold acceptance. And what does that mean? Does that mean that I have to feel bad about that? No, I mean that once you identify that somebody's actually doing this, you are free, because you're never going to be manipulated by such a person. And the outcome card is the Father of Swords, and this is a card that is the King of Swords. So we do have two fathers in this reading. And the theme of the Father, you know, we're talking about archetypes. We're not talking about gender roles in 2019. So please understand that. The king, the masculine, is about outward power. It's about mastery, self-mastery. And there's an independence. You know, the feminine energy, somebody joked about why is masculine positive and feminine negative? Well, look at a battery. Look at human anatomy. And the genitals of males and females. One is an outie, one is an innie. And the innie is considered the negative because it's like an absence of something. That doesn't mean bad, you know, somebody has a crappy, you know, view of life. It's a different term of negative. And the positive meaning it's outwards, yang energy, you know. So, the Father of Swords is a double masculine energy. And in a situation like this, where you may be mulling something over, maybe you are having to make a decision, even though the cards don't suggest this, you might be starting to formulate that. Like, I need to do this, or I need to do that. And you're kind of deciding what that's going to look like. And you need that kind of dispassionate demeanor in order to do that. Because when we feel that we care about somebody, or we care about where we work, that tug on our heartstrings can really muddle up the clarity of our vision. It's big time. I still would love the lessons on how you can make decisions in a more dispassionate way, a more detached sort of way, so you don't allow your emotions to control you or inform you. Although, you know, we do need emotions to tell us which direction to go in, of course. I think I'm thinking of the lower emotions more than anything. So this is really a card of gaining self-mastery over your emotions, Gemini. And so it's like getting a handle on things so that you're able to make good decisions, but also so you can move on in your life. Maybe you're ready. Well, actually, in December, you're going to have a full moon in your sign, so that might be that punctuation mark. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this. I'm kind of like quickly running out of juice here. If you'd like a personal reading, my website is rainamoonastrology.com. The link is below. Take care. Bye.